and Holy Spirit. I suspect that when those who devised the present lectionary put together the readings for the fourth Sunday in Lent, they didn't reckon with the possibility that sometimes it might fall the day after St. Patrick's Day. And the reason I think that might be the case is that St. Patrick was known for having expelled all of the snakes from Ireland. And here we have a set of readings which is clearly devised to show how it is that the serpent can be a symbol not simply of evil, but also of the good. There are good snakes as well as bad snakes, so expelling all snakes, you might say, was kind of an Irish thing to do. Except, although you might say that, you have to remember that he was British, so you can always blame it on the English for this overly broad spectrum look at snakes only being evil. Sure, they have a reputation for evil. Naturally, snakes are dangerous. But in the ancient world, it was understood that there is another side to the snake. It was known for its intelligence. That was one reason. It was also held to be dangerous. Why intelligent? Its ability to move so subtly. Its apparently unblinking stare. But then, more particularly, snakes were used in many ancient cultures as symbols of healing. You can still see the snake on medical signs at the moment, sometimes in front of pharmacies. Why? To some extent because of the subtlety, because of the intelligence, but also because the way in which snakes often can slough off the old skin and re-emerge was taken to be a sign of the power of renewal. As a result of that, within the worship of Asclepios in Greece, the snake and the rod were used in order to show the power of medical practice, of healing. What we see in the first lesson today, from Numbers 21, is an exact use of the understanding of the snake, in this case, the bronze snake on the rod, like the symbol of Asclepius, being something that can convey healing to the Israelites in the wilderness. Once that was in place within the Torah, alongside that other story about a snake in the book of Genesis, the one we all know, it meant that both sides of snake symbolism, the positive, where the snake stands for wisdom and healing, as well as the negative, where the snake stands for intelligence gone wrong, coexisted within the biblical tradition. And that's why we can have today's gospel reading, a gospel reading which inspires this window on the side in honor of our patron saint, St. John the Evangelist. I've frequently been asked, what is that snake doing in the cup? And the answer to the question is given you right here in John chapter 3. This within a gospel in which Jesus refers to himself both as being like the serpent lifted up in the wilderness and as being the one who gives his flesh and gives his blood on behalf of his people. Those two images are in fact meant to convey the same truth. And those two images are brought together in this window. The serpent lifted up in the wilderness, and Christ giving himself in the cup of Eucharist. Now, why is this serpent symbolism being used here? Because Jesus wants to convey the truth that there is a specific moment within his life in which he offers healing to those who follow him, in the same way that the serpent in the wilderness lifted up by Moses offered healing. And that moment is when Jesus himself was lifted up, when he gave his own life. What Jesus is here conveying by means of pictorial language is the same truth that he conveys when he shares his last meal with his disciples. Namely, that life-giving often comes about as a result of one's willingness to lay down one's own life. This lifting up of Jesus is precisely what we focus on during the period of Lent. So these readings really are not a conspiracy against St. Patrick's Day. They are rather a focused attention to the issue of how it is that we can incorporate the wisdom within our lives, that we can discover renewal precisely in those places in our experience where we feel most challenged. That is where the grace of the cross comes out. That is how we find our lives renewed, and why this period of Lent represents a joyful discipline, because it is the discipline that leads on to renewal. Now to God, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, be ascribed as is most justly due, all might, majesty, dominion, and power, this day and forevermore.